Larry Simon. Roll call, please. We have to have a roll call first.
Jackowitz, Vaughn, Rosenblatt,
Here.
Schwartz,
Here.
Silver, Timm,
Here.
Slacker.
There's no answer. Good evening. Yes.
Note that Mr. Silver is president. Good evening, board members.
Thank you. I heard that.
Good evening, board members, associate administrative staff. My first question is directed to the superintendent of schools, Ms. Laura Winters.
Excuse me, Mr. Simon, for the record, can you please say your name, please?
I'm sorry, Larry Simons, Lakewood.
Thank you.
Rumor mill has it that the present business administrator, Mr. Thomas D. Ambola's term of employment with the Board of Education has been and is currently under review, and that his termination as an employee of the Lakewood School District is imminent. Mr. D'Ambola and I have not always been eye to eye. I have disagreed on various subjects numerous times. However, with my relationship with Mr. D'Ambola, I have found him to be honest, objective, and extremely professional in his handling of business matters associated with the Lakewood School District. These words are coming from a retired accountant with over 31 years' experience. As such, I now ask the all-important question: is this rumor true? And if so, what are the reasons for his dismissal? My second question is as follows. New Jersey state law mandates courtesy busing when a K-8 student lives more than 2 miles from their school, and grades 9 to 12 live more than 2.5 miles from their school. My understanding of Lakewood courtesy busing policy is that it does not adhere to these state guidelines. Instead, Lakewood School District has the following guidelines. Courtesy busing will be applied when the K-8 student lives more than one and a half miles from their school, not 2, and when grade 9 to 12 students live more than 2 miles from their school, not 2.5 miles. Obviously, more students are being granted courtesy busing under Lakewood's guidelines than under New Jersey state guidelines, which in my opinion is creating additional costs for Lakewood taxpayers. If I am correct in my understanding of Lakewood policy, then I now ask Mr. Gus, to provide me with the number of students receiving courtesy busing who live distances less than those mandated by New Jersey law. I do realize Gus does not have these figures available at this time, but I ask him if he could assemble such data within a week of tonight's meeting. Can this be accomplished?
I don't think Gus, I don't think he's looking for a presentation, he just wants to.
No.
We could do a follow-up and give information in the future.
I want to address the difference.
I don't think so, no.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
And the answer,
Thank you.
Mr. D'Ambola is on the agenda to be rehired. Mr. D'Ambola is on the agenda to be rehired tonight.
Thank you.
La pregunta era sobre el administrador de negocio, que había rumores de que no lo iban a coger de nuevo. Sí, lo van a aceptar o esta noche él va a ser aprobado para su posición de nuevo. También la pregunta fue sobre transportación, que el Estado dice que los niños deben de caminar 2,5 millas cuando son de grado 9 al 12 y de kindergarten a 8º grado debe de ser 2 millas. Y los requisitos de Lakewood son muy diferentes. Aparentemente es 1,5 millas para los niños que son de kindergarten a 8º grado y los que están de 9º grado al 12 son 2 millas. Él le preguntó al director de transportación si eso era correcto y el director de transportación le respondió que sí. Y la pregunta del administrador, si a él lo aprobaron para renovar el contrato.
Regarding the second question, I believe it's a yes or no question. Is that our policy, Gus? Yes or no?
The old policy in a walking area versus a courtesy bus area. It was the Board of Education.
Do we currently provide courtesy bus kids, K to 8, between 1.5 and 2 miles? Yes or no?
The answer is no. The answer is that we are providing the transportation that Mr. Simons was referring to is in reference to the walking area that we have in the downtown. We could walk children up to K to 8, up to 2 miles. The Board of Education in the past, which is far before I came here, made a decision to reduce the mileages by a half mile each so that the children would walk not as far as the state had suggested, but rather a half mile less. It's a reference to the walking areas more so than the courtesy busing.
Are we providing any busing from kindergarten through 8 from 1.5 miles to 2 miles?
Absolutely.
Courtesy busing.
Absolutely.
And please provide that list within a week. Thank you. I was unaware of that.
What are you talking about? You know we've been providing courtesy busing.
For 2 miles. From 2 miles, and from 8 and above, from 9th grade and above, it's 2.5 miles.
No, all he,
No, it's
I don't think you understand, Mr. Rosenblatt. What he's talking about is a reduction.
That's, I think we're with that. That's it, it's 1.5 miles. That's included. All right, next. Okay, next person. Mr. Hobday.
Understand what's being said.
Sometimes when you ask a question, a simple yes or no, it takes a little bit more detail to answer the question.
That was a very simple question, yes or no answer.
Yeah, but sometimes some things are a little complicated more than just a yes or no.
Yes or no answer.
Good evening, board, professionals, people that have come here to share this experience with us tonight, especially Mr. Zara. Welcome. Keep up the good work. I think you're doing a marvelous job, so it's going to be a long, hard process. But I think with the kind of attention we've seen to the issue so far, we're going to walk out of this. We're going to walk right through it. And we're going to get good again. Because right now we have a mess. When I heard the reports from Mrs. Winter about agencies that are auditing our process, one might think, gee, a board can make some mistakes, but the list went on and on and on and on. You know, the Lakewood School District, like other school districts in the nation, is dedicated to the proposition that they will provide a thorough and efficient education to the students. And they will do that within their means to pay for it. And some of that comes from the ability of the local community to pay, as the municipality, state aid, and federal aid. And when things are done to circumvent the aid from here or there, to kind of cheat, intentionally or not intentionally, that's wrong. We can't do that. We're more honorable than that. I think that we're acting as a government bureaucracy as opposed to a public entity that has a mission
to provide the very best education the school district can offer. We have the ability. We're just not doing it. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of exception to the attorney. I do think he was arrogant, and his salary is paid for by the people of this nation. The municipality, the state, and the federal government. I think that your intention is to protect the board from us, where you should be protecting us from the board. Your position is to help with legal issues, not to give other kind of advice or not to say, I can't give you this or I can't give you that. And I know that's sometimes going down the dark aisle. You prefer not to do that. But at the same time, when people have legitimate questions and interests and say, gee, I just need to know where to go. That's not a big deal, and it's within your capacity to do that. And you should do that, because these folks pay your salary. I mean, you work directly for the board, but no, you really don't, do you? You work for the school district, and who's the school district? That's us. So, you know, think about what you're doing and how you're doing it, because I think your best interest would be to say, let me stick to legal issues, and I am the attorney for this Lakewood School District, not for the board. And if you see things that are going awry, I'm sure you give them advice and counsel on that. But I think that all these things that are going on, it scares me. And I know most of it occurred before, things we're talking about occurred before your tenure. And I understand that. But what I'm looking at is no school district that I can imagine could have this many problems that go unaddressed, and we have these plans to remediate it and to fix it. But I've been hearing that for an awful lot of years. And I don't see any remediation. And I don't see us fixing anything. It just goes on. And you know why it goes on? Because there's no action to go after those folks that have not complied with the law. Now, all businesses use the carrot and the stick. And the carrot is, we're going to be nice. But if you do things that are not appropriate or illegal, we're going to use the stick. We never use the stick. Even this money that's owed that we could have to pay back is not going to come from the municipality, but it's coming from taxpayers of the United States of America. Nothing is free. There is no free lunch. Everything has to be paid for. And if we cheated on that, shame on us. We have to do our very best to be prudent. We have to be thrifty. But our dedication has to be to every student in the Lakewood School District. And we have to give them the very best without any other motivations. They have to be your interest, and you have to give them the chance, because this is their formative years, and what happens to them now is going to be reflected on that student the rest of their lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Uno de los comentarios que él hizo fue que verdaderamente él regañó a la Junta porque dice que sobre el reporte que hicieron encontraron que había muchas cosas que no estaban bien, pero que él viene a las reuniones año tras año y siempre es la misma historia. ¿Cuándo se van a arreglar estos problemas que tenemos? También regañó al abogado, le dijo que él encontró que sí, era medio arrogante con el público, que el deber de él era de trabajar para el público, porque en verdad él trabaja para el distrito escolar, y el distrito escolar somos nosotros los que pagamos los impuestos, que él lo que tiene que hacer es de darle consejo legal solamente a la Junta y no ponerse de la forma que se ha puesto. El trabajo de él es solamente avisar de cosas legales a la Junta, y en verdad él trabaja para el distrito escolar. Que ellos deberían de trabajar para arreglar todos esos problemas que tenemos y no seguir con los problemas que tenemos y aguantar a las personas que han hecho los errores que cuenten, que por ejemplo que si ellos hacen algo malo, pues entonces tienen que arreglar esa situación.
Ms. Alejandra Morales.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Alejandra Morales
Good evening, my name is Alejandra Morales
y yo soy residente de aquí de Lakewood.
and I am a Lakewood resident.
Buenas noches, señora Saro, y buenas noches, junta directiva.
¿A quién le dijo así? ¿Quién es? She says, good evening to Mr. Azara and the committee,
Good evening,
or the
ma'am.
board.
Good evening.
Lo que yo les voy a decir ya la mayoría de las personas se los ha dicho,
What I'm
pero
going to say, the majority of the people have said it, but
yo les quiero decir que yo vengo de muy abajo y yo sí les puedo decir a ustedes el por qué ustedes no pueden probar de ese dinero donde ha ido.
I have come, de muy abajo dijiste.
Sí, de lo más pobre.
I have come from a very poor setting, and I'm going to tell you why you can't prove ¿a dónde ese dinero qué?
¿A dónde va ese dinero?
Where that money goes to.
Ustedes se preguntarán por qué en esta noche no hay muchos padres de familia hispanos.
You ask yourself, probably you're wondering why there's not that many Spanish-speaking parents here tonight.
Porque esas madres de familia tienen que trabajar largas horas con la
Because-
comunidad.
Because those mothers have to work long hours in the other community.
Yo quisiera decirles a ustedes cuántas veces yo he tenido que llamar a la policía para arreglar esas injusticias.
And you have no idea how many times I've had to call the police to help remedy the situation, that injustice.
Y algo que no se me hace justo es porque yo pago impuestos.
Something that doesn't, to me, is not justice or is not justified because I pay taxes.
Lamentablemente nuestra comunidad hispana no crece en números porque para nosotros se nos hace muy dificultoso ya que nosotros tenemos que hacer las cosas legalmente.
Because unfortunately, we don't progress the way we should because we have to do everything by the law of the letter. We have to do everything legal.
Y en el meeting anterior yo les dije y los invité a que ustedes caminaran esas escuelas públicas.
And in the prior meetings, I invited you to walk and go into the public school buildings
Porque se habla de remodelaciones que nosotros no vemos.
because you talk about remodeling and fixing here and there that we never see.
Y la superintendente hace un momento dijo que ella empleaba a las maestras contemplando el grado de calificación que tienen en su maestría. ¿Es correcto?
And before, the superintendent said that you would hire teachers depending on their qualification. Is that correct?
Correcto. Yo le puedo probar, señora intendente,
I can prove, Madam Superintendent,
que han ustedes empleado a personas que no tienen ningún título para ser asistentes de maestro.
that you have hired people that don't have any certification to be a teacher's assistant.
¿Y sabe cuántas veces al año mis hijos han tenido asistentes de maestros?
You know how many times a year my children have had teacher's assistants?
Muchísimas veces.
A lot of times.
You're talking about substitute?
¿Está hablando de
paraprofessional?
sustituta o de la
Estoy hablando de sustitutas porque las maestras,
substitutes?
Substitutes have to have a substitute license.
Que las sustitutas tienen que tener una licencia de ser sustitutas.
yo le puedo probar que las personas que han empleado, y yo le puedo probar con una persona que ella no tiene ningún título, simplemente se presentó y pidió trabajo y así mismo invitó a otras personas a hacerlo.
She can prove that you hired a person that doesn't have a license and just presented herself and she was hired, and along with that she called a couple of her friends and they were hired.
So, no es justo
It's not just
que de nuestro dinero
that of our money
se vaya a pagar ese dinero del cual ustedes no pueden probar en los más de 6 millones de dólares al Estado.
part of that money goes to the $6 million that you keep talking about
Cuando los niños no están teniendo una calidad de educación como ellos la merecen.
when the children don't have the quality of education that they really deserve.
Esta no va a ser la última vez
This is not going to be the last time
que ustedes me van a ver aquí.
you're going to see me here.
Y verdaderamente yo estoy muy feliz porque el Señor del Estado continúe nuevamente aquí. Nosotros ponemos muchas esperanzas en Él porque Él es nuestra voz.
Thank you.
And we are truly happy that Mr. Azara is here because he will be our voice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Tamika Evans.
To the board, I'm here on a different kind of note. I guess more specifically to Mrs. Winters, since I showed up at your office on June 24th to speak with you about my son, who was denied the opportunity to walk with the class of 2014. His father was out of his life since he was 2 years old. From the time he's been in first grade, he has talked about walking across that stage. He was denied for a lapse in judgment. I was called at 12:45 that afternoon to be told that my son would not be walking for a lapse in judgment because he was allegedly caught on camera taking money out of a fellow student's purse. The same camera did not catch the student who stole his $500 phone that I worked effortlessly for during Christmas to get it. And that is just a moment that my family and I will never get back. Do I justify his action? Was he right if he did it? Absolutely not. Do I justify it? Absolutely not. But if a parent comes to you, I feel like in the 11th hour, begging, pleading, asking to see the tape, she should be given the opportunity to view the tape. She should be met by you, the superintendent, and not your secretary, who in turn tells me that she understands I have a lot of family here, some who were on military leave, to gather at my home and have a party. It was very unfair. I called for the past 3 months. I called every day to speak to his guidance counselor to make sure that we were on track. And my son was searched that day at the high school by an officer who is in the high school at all times. No money was recovered. The person whose money was taken, her family and my family have been friends, very close for over 20 years. She begged and she pleaded with the principal and asked her to please allow him to walk. There was also a student here tonight who received an award who was also in the same situation. He was involved in that altercation as well. And the amount of money was $30. Me and his father, who walked out on him at the age of 2, offered $300 just to have that opportunity. It has caused an emotional strain on my family as well as my son. And if I think about it, and if he never were to attend college, and I were to never see him walk across the stage, I would have to say that the Lakewood High School administration are the real thieves. Thank you very much.
Ms. Winters, is there a policy on families viewing the tape if their kid, son, daughter, or?
They could absolutely view the tape, but I was never brought to my knowledge that anyone requested to view the tape, but she should have asked the actual high school principal to view the tape. Excuse me?
Why didn't you meet with?
Thank you, Ms. Winters.
You're welcome.
Next person, please. John, I believe it's Crossman. Crossman? Okay, sorry. Sorry.
The reason I'm here this evening is to,
John, just for the record, can you state your
sorry,
please and your
how's
time?
that now?
Thank you.
Better?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm here to address the audit by the State of New Jersey Department of Education on Title I. Before I do though, I have some observations which I'd like to share with you as comments. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for their volunteerism in the community. I think that's very important. Before I begin, the fact that this audit report, one of the things I think the superintendent may have mentioned when she was reading the findings into the record is that the findings were for the audit year 2011-12 fiscal year, and that many of you weren't in place on the board when that calendar year was being managed. So with that said, I think you may, the superintendent, have said that while you weren't here, therefore, I think you were inferring there wasn't anything you could do about it or wasn't your responsibility. But it is your responsibility today, the board, that you inherited the problem and it's your problem to fix. And with that said, I recognize that there's been state monitoring and science in the school district, and there's been an audit, but the audit was for the year 2011-12. Now we're in the year 2014. We don't even know what 2012-13 looks like until an audit is performed, if one is done. With that said, you're not being proactive. And I think by the time the auditors come in to do an audit, you're looking at problems that occurred several years ago. So 2 years from now, you may not be in place and somebody else takes your place and inherits the same exact issue. And that is not my problem, but I'll go try and fix it. I think what you need to put in place, if you don't have one already, is somebody that deals strictly with compliance. Compliance internally within the Board of Education here at the district that makes every one of you and everybody that operates within the school system adhere to federal and state statutes, regulations, and as well as the local. Okay? And I think, just as you said earlier, well, we didn't have a purchasing agent in place a couple of years ago, but we have one now. You need very badly, and I urge you to go find somebody that will make every one of you and everybody that operates within the Board of Education adhere to and be compliant with the statutes and the regulations. Desperately. You're out of control. You're out of control. The audit says that. The Title I program for 2011-12, the grants were $8.7 million. You potentially have to give back $4 million of that $8.7 million. That should tell you something. Your program is not working. You do not have the right controls in place in which to assure that the people that money is intended for are getting the best use of it. Here we're going to now have to potentially give back $4 million, for which I read an article, I believe, in a paper just recently this week about you, Mr. Attorney, that indicated in the scoop that you trivialized the problem. You said, well, gee, we're only going to we have a documentation issue, and we'll probably only have to give back, yes, you did say that. We're or it was quoted at, it may not have been quoted, but there was an article that said there was documentation issues, and that you believe that only 2 million of the 4 million would have to be given back. Okay? I think that's what I read.
I certainly did not trivialize it. I think what you might be referring to is the iPad issue, which is that there was other publications that seemed to indicate that these iPads were missing and they were gone and nobody knew where they were. That's what I was referring to when I said it was really much ado about nothing, because we do actually know where all those iPads are. We have an inventory and so forth. So
Okay.
that's
We're on it. We're on it.
Miss Winters has the inventory.
Okay, we're on it. We're on
They're
it.
in
Can we touch
school,
the
they're
field?
in, I have an inventory if you'd like to see, if anyone would like a copy, they can open it.
Are our children using? the-
They are absolutely, kids are using, they
Every day,
absolutely are.
in
They're,
class.
they're in the public schools and they're in a variety of different schools, yes, they are. They're in the hands of students.
Okay.
And sir, if you, the corrective action plans, copies of the drafts are outside, and you can get a copy, and that's exactly what we put in. We plan on hiring a certified public accountant. We've been interviewing, we're in the process, and that would be their sole job, is to oversee all the grants, the entire grants department, under the heading of the business office, and that's all they would be doing is compliance.
That's good. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question, and the question has to do with the Title I audit.
Time is up.
Yeah.
Let me ask my question. I'm not going to get pushed off the stage.
We're not gonna push you off, so you
All right,
can
thank
finish
you.
your question.
Thank you. It has to do with the finding number 6 in the audit report. The state auditors, the Board of Education state disallowed $1,062,220 as a result of its supplanting rather than supplementing local funding, which is disallowed. It's not allowed. So I have some questions, and they pertain to accountability.
His time is up.
Let him finish, please.
I'd like to finish, okay? All right?
Let him finish.
All right, no, there were other people that spoke for 10 or 15 minutes, you didn't interrupt them.
Let him finish, please. Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Okay. In the audit, it comes out, it says that there was a lady, her name is Miss Suella. Many of you, some of you may know her, I know her, who was requested by the auditor to write an email to all the non-public school officials for their teacher schedules and curriculum information, and only 3 of 142 responded. And that was after 2 efforts were made. The first email or letter she sent out was done on August 28, 2013. And then again, as recent as March 5th, 2014, another email or letter was sent out, and yet only 3 people responded. So my questions are, what options do you have? They're breaking the law. They're using public funds and not responding to the state auditors with regard to how to use that money. Okay? You have no documentation on it. You're going to have to pay it back. I, as a taxpayer, will have to flip some of the bill, my portion of the bill, as many of these people in this room will have to do as well, to pay that money back. And that money is going to go against your 2% cap in your budgets, okay? And well, you know what that's going to do? It's going to hurt the children. Because when you want to reinvent the wheel and develop new programs that are going to further the education of our children, you're not going to have the money. Because you're paying back the state stuff that you made errors on to a community. So my question goes on, what are you doing? Are you going to do anything to hold the non-public school officials, especially the 139 that didn't respond to the 2 emails? How are you going to hold them accountable? Are they going to pay you back so that we, the taxpayers, are not impacted with having to repay this tab back to the state? Or will they pay it back? Will they provide the documentation and have the state overturn their decision and give the money back to us and not have us remit that money to them?
Thank you, sir.
Not finished yet. My question, that question is to the president. Do you have a plan in which to ask the non-public school officials to provide you with the documentation on the $1,062,000 that was supplanted rather than supplemented?
I can tell you, going forward, we,
Hold on. The question to the president, I
I
beg,
did it correct.
excuse me, you're the superintendent, I'm talking to the president of the board.
Like I said before, I've discussed the order many times with the state monitor, with the administration. I was not aware that there was a need for documentation for the non-public. I will discuss it with the monitor and we'll follow through.
How could you not be aware of that when it's in the audit, dated May 16th?
I understand that they've been going through it and.
Have you read this? Have you read this?
Yes, I have read it. Yes, I've read it.
Then how
But
could you
there's a
not?
corrective action plan that administration and state monitor put forward. In there, that is not, it does not, so we'll discuss it. That is my answer, sir.
Sir, you're speaking for 10 minutes and you're right.
Okay.
Everybody else, no, not okay. It's not okay. The policy is 4 minutes.
I know the policy is 4 minutes, but you want me to speak for 15 minutes.
From here on in.
Okay.
I'm learning.
Okay, I'll do that the
And
next time.
if the person in charge of the time can't keep to the time, then he will pass over the job.
Don't tell me how to do my job.
No, we will.
We will, don't tell me how to do my job.
These are our rules.
Don't tell me how to do my job.
We won't tell you.
Don't tell me how to do my job.
If the board, let me just say something real quick. If the board would start respecting the public, I will start respecting the time.
That's right.
Can I make a motion to
Give me one example of the board not respecting the public. Before you spew, your hatred remarks, why don't you back it up? Tell me one example that the board didn't.
Starting on time, not coming to the graduation, let's start with that. While we're talking to speeches, okay? You need more? Who add more? Don't you come to the meetings? You never come to the meetings?
I come to all the meetings.
No, you
Who
don't.
texted tonight on the phone?
No, you don't.
I've been to 5 graduations in a row. I'm
No, you
not
don't.
gonna miss one for personal.
Okay, you asked for reasons, I gave you reasons.
Well, you should pass.
Here's the public
house
app.
'cause
Here's the public app.
Why do you use?
How do you explain that? Let us speak. Let us speak. Let us speak. Let the public
Have you
speak.
ever got to the township committee meeting?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and then 1 hour for public.
This is not a township meeting, this is a school.
That won't become policy.
1 hour.
This is the school.
4 minutes per person.
Believe me, if we were black cats, it would be
Sir, we have a long list and we have a long agenda. We're trying to get that.
Let's do it one
Just
day.
a last observation. The reason why this school district is one of the lowest ranked school districts in the state of New Jersey is because you don't even know how to get along. How can you get anything done if you don't get along? If you don't work together, if you swim in different directions, if you go in different directions, you get nothing done. And that's what you're doing. You're arguing with each other in front of the public. Embarrassing.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Next person, please.
John Sewell, I believe I'm pronouncing that name correctly, first name John. S-T-R-O-U-S-E, I believe. What's your last name? Guy? Guy. Paul? Pam? Is it Pam or Paul?
Paul.
That's it.
Paul Dwyer. Actually, in the interest of time, I'm going to defer to someone else because my question had been addressed by Mrs. Winters
Thank you, sir.
in the finding number 1. But I would just like to make a comment to Mr. Zlatkin. You said a little bit earlier, where they're talking about the monies, that how we, and the question was how we going to address that. You said, I'm going to ask the state to forgive it.
No, I said that's one of the.
Well, that's one of your options. That's what you would like. What you said was, what I would like to do is have the state forgive it.
That's many districts.
I would like the bank to forgive my mortgage, and for the state not to charge me taxes, and for the township to reduce my taxes, but that's not going to happen either. So I think at the end of the day, you want to put that dream aside and start addressing the real issues and figure out how you're going to solve the problem today.
Next person, please. First name is Robert Ballantoni. Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen, I'm one of the seniors, but I'm one of the youngest seniors. I am a father of 3 daughters and a grandfather to 8 kids. Nothing is more important to me than education. Okay? I've been a resident of Ocean County for 32 years, living in Seaside Park. I moved to Lakewood about 2 years ago. Okay? Probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. What really is the important thing, what really has to be understood here, is that in order to educate our kids and give them a shot, you need money. The money comes from us. We pay our taxes. My gang out here is doing their part. They're sending that check in every quarter. You guys are not. Okay, we can go back 2 years and 3 years and think, you cannot have Lakewood School. You cannot have Lakewood. I'm Italian, I can fix anything. You cannot have Lakewood School District in the newspapers 3 times or 4 times a week with the publicity we have and expect to get this thing turned around. We've got to get our act together. We've got to work together. You guys have to work together. You know, no one appreciates volunteers more than I do. I've done it all my life. I'm the president of my condo association in Florida. I give of my time. Okay? But you know what? If you can't do it, get out. Because you do more of a disservice by volunteering and not getting the job done. Thank you very much.
Gary. Pass. Alan Ford. Charles Kirkland, I believe. Joanne Weatherland. Ms. Carter.
We need to have someone to write the names down.
I'm not sure, because I kind of got caught up in a moment listening to a mother who, her child was denied the opportunity to walk across the stage. But what I did hear, and it's not the first time I've heard it this year, and I want to hope, I want to pray that this information just isn't true, but Mrs. Winters, parents have been saying, and it's not just her, they have been calling you, and you haven't been calling them back. Instead, when they do come in, and you may not even know, so don't take it the wrong way, but Joanne is the one who's meeting with people, can't give them answers, can't make a decision. That's unfair, and it's definitely unfair to someone who has been staying on top of it. Because you know me, when my son graduated last year, I was on top of everything, so I know what it is. As a single mom, working, trying to stay on top of your children's grades, trying to make sure that you're involved in the school. If the child made a wrong decision, no one's condoning anybody going into anyone's purse, whether it's their relative or not. We're not condoning that. But she did deserve the opportunity to talk to you, to make a decision about her family coming in, ready for graduation, in the 11th hour. I'm sure you've been there. You have children as well. And I just want to say that piece about it, because I don't think anyone, public or non-public, would ever want to be in that situation. And as a mother, my heart is breaking for her. All that time, all that effort, everything. And yes, our kids are teenagers and they do stupid things and not thinking of the consequences. But as adults, we should have rallied around to see if there was another remedy for that situation. question. The second corrective action plan, I don't know if we have that or if it was somewhere in here. I'll try to look for it. But if we don't have it, is it possible that could be posted on the website?
Well, the board isn't approving the plans tonight, so I can't make them.
My next thing was, on the agenda,
There should be 3 plans. One for each audit report.
I think we only saw one. There was 3 different piles, but they all seem to have the same thing.
They look alike, they all look alike, but they should have 3 different names at the top.
Nope.
That match all 3 orders. If you don't have, I can get it.
Okay. When we talk about corrective action plans, also running businesses, staying on top of stuff, I think it was on page,
Is this the audit report or?
this is the actual agenda. Starting on page 30, actually it's backwards. So, starting on page 35, 36, and 37. And if there's a Heidi Burger on here, and this might be normal, but it backs all the way back to October of 2013. Is that the norm that people with expenses will wait this long to provide them all? Like, I understand not submitting 84 cents right then and there, but from October to now?
No, it's not the norm, but she happened to save it for the entire year. And she had all of her backup documentation. She had everything, and she applied for it, and actually she's entitled to it.
Okay. I think we should also consider that if we have expenses, just for the sake of keeping things pure and making sure everyone is on top of it, there should be a time frame. It shouldn't be for the whole year and then all of a sudden we see a whole bunch of names, not just her, whoever it is. I just think that should be considered. The other thing, last but not least, you have mentioned in one of your corrective action plans, speaking about, one of the questions came up about the Title I coordinator, or if there was someone in that current position overseeing the Title I funding. My question is, who is that person, if we can name? And is that the same person who was also over SES funding a couple years ago when that all got screwed up as well? By your reaction, I know the answer.
That's all Title I, SES is Title I.
Okay. So it is the same person who screwed up and messed up the public school part of it, because if you don't remember, for those who weren't on the board, what was happening was the SES funding, Supplemental Educational Services funding, was supposed to have been used for the extra help that the public school students, as well as the non-public school students, needed. But on the public school side, for years, public schools didn't really know about it. So parents didn't, while they're pulling their hair out, they didn't even have opportunity to get the extra help for their kids. There was vendors who came to the community, Pastor Glennon, am I right? Came to the community and said, why didn't you sign up for it? We have these services. We want to give them to Lakewood. We don't have enough students in the public school sector signing up for it. Mrs. Larkin, you remember this, right?
Correct.
So with that, once we motivated the parents, stop pulling your hair out, the board, not the board, but the school district is offering services for the help that you're looking for in math and language arts, I believe it was. With that, we started using it. In 24 hours, we come to a meeting, cease and dismiss. We all of a sudden used all of our money. Because what was happening was when we didn't use our money, the funds went into the general pot, and then in the general pot, that money can go anywhere. And so really what was happening was, it wasn't coming to the public schools, so we all know where it was going. And so with that being said, if it's the same person, I think we should consider looking at that, because you can't keep making those kind of mistakes and saying it's an oversight. That's intentional. That's not an oversight, that's intentional. And yes, I stand by what I said. That is intentional, not an oversight.
Mary Ann Cruz,
Is that Mary Ann Cruz? Captain Tucker? Morse? Winder Morse? Robert, I'm sorry, Robert Morse?
Wilder.
Sorry.
Good evening.
Well, 5 years ago, I was running for the same position that most of you have. I got a little discouraged because my people didn't want to, or my community didn't want to support it. This thing about communities, first of all, that's wrong for Lakewood, okay? If we're going to say a community within a community, that is wrong. I don't think you should take your religious belief or your living or whatever it is and turn it into a community. If you're going to live in a community, you should operate and function in that community still as one. We're all brothers, and you must realize that, but we're not treated the same. The idea 15, 20 years ago with Jimmy Wilcox, I think many of you know who he was, and also Alan Black, predicted that if certain things didn't take place within the school board, that it would come to where it's at right now. This one thing that should have taken place is simply this. The bylaws and the constitution of this particular organization has been violated. And what I'd like to do is this. I'd like for each one of you to go back to the bylaws and constitution of this particular board, go through it, and see where you're going wrong. Members sitting on this board, some have no interest at all for the public schools. And this is ridiculous. Why would you volunteer for something that you really have no interest in? Why would you volunteer for something that you really don't have an interest in? Except to do what? To tear it down or bleed it for the benefits that you can use personally.